Loud. So we are officially rocking and rolling. So thank you all for being here on time or early. I appreciate that. This is business planning for realtors. What we're going to talk about today is how to set up your business roadmap that's tailored to you. Hold on 2 seconds here. I got all kinds of weird things popping up on my screen. Zoom must have did an update. Okay, perfect. The goal is to set up a business roadmap that is tailored to you. So you not only know how much money you want to make, which is obviously an important function of your business, but what are you going to do to make it? How are you going to execute those strategies? How are you going to track your progress so that you stay on track? And if you need to make adjustments, you can. And so we're going to end this Zoom with you having a very clear document of your own that you can reference to know exactly how you want to do this. And then we're going to give it some teeth as we go. So I'm going to do some screen share, walk through this. I will do my best to keep an eye on the chat, but obviously when I'm sharing my screen, it's a little bit more difficult to watch the chat. So if you have something that you want to say, by all means, drop it in the chat. There will be some Q&A time at the end, so we'll make sure that we get to that. Real quick, I just want to make sure everybody can see the screen. Raise your hand if you can see business planning for realtors with Walt Key on the screen. Everybody's good? Okay, beautiful. Thank you. Perfect, perfect. All right. So this is me in a nutshell. There's other things, but that's just a quick bio of me. I don't like to belabor the point and talk about how awesome I am. If you know me already, great. If you're brand new to this, you found it on Eventbrite or someone invited you, I'll just do a quick summary of this and then we'll move on. If you want to grab a scan of that QR code, if you have your phone available, that's going to give you all of my contact information, email, phone number, social presence. So if this is done and you have questions afterwards, or you wake up tomorrow and go, crap, I really should have asked Walt about that thing, you'll have all my contact info to reach back out. So top producing agent, and that's not really the case anymore. I close about 25, 30 deals a year. I'm happy now. I won't really call myself a top producer. I used to be. There was a point in my career where I was the #1 agent in my office, the #1 agent across 4 offices, and I was in the top 3% of my entire MLS for closed transactions. I was busy, and I don't like to be that busy anymore. So now I just try to help other people replicate my success, which is why I became a real estate coach and started helping people. For those who are at Epic, I'm also the Northeast Florida area leader in the Keystone Heights, Middleburg, Orange Park area, just outside of the Jacksonville Metro. So if that's you, hi, I'm your area leader. If you didn't already know that, happy to help. I'm also a published author. I wrote a great book called The Startup Agent. I will put a link to a free copy of that in the email wrap up that I send with this recording. Me and my coaching partner, Ray, wrote a book on exactly how to step-by-step build and run a successful real estate business. We just built it so that we could help fix the 87% failure rate. Real estate investor, 21-year Navy veteran, former marathon runner. You're probably saying, well, why do I care that you're a former marathon runner or an investor? As we talk about some things later in this, I'll probably reference those examples on how it applies to you, which is why it's on the bullets. And then 3 kids, 5 dogs, 2 cats. I have a neighbor cat that likes to hang out in my front yard, so almost 3 cats, 2.5 cats. I stay busy as much as I can. I don't like to be idle. Okay, this is what we're going to cover today. So we're going to start really big picture. This is something that a lot of business owners, real estate agents specifically, they miss as they're thinking about goals, and they wind up shortchanging themselves on the goals because they don't think big enough. So we'll talk a little bit about casting a strategic vision. What does that look like? What does that even mean? How do we do that? Then we'll dive into how do we set goals that start getting us to that vision, milestones to track that success. How do we plan and prioritize our business calendar so that we know what we're doing, when we're doing it, how we're doing it, and we can literally start becoming the CEO of our own company and just going to work for ourselves. That will lead into a conversation briefly about prospecting for your personality type, which will be the title of the second book that we release later this year. That aligns your business goals with the specific strategies to execute those goals based on who you are, how you think, how you communicate, what's your business philosophy, how do you like to interact with people, so that it is a very tailored and easy to execute plan. The worst thing you can possibly do is just, well, someone said on YouTube that worked really great for them, so I'll try it. Or I know this agent who kills it on social media, so I guess I should be doing social media, right? That's not the answer. There are dozens of great ways to build a real estate business. We're going to help you figure out the best ways to build your real estate business. Then we'll talk briefly about some technology, some things that you might not be thinking about that can leverage your time back, make it a little bit easier. And then the last thing we'll talk about is the lie that you've been told your entire life. That's a little teaser at the end. And then we'll just open it up for Q&A at that point. Any questions so far? Just like I said, feel free to use the chat, drop it in there, let me know. I'm going to roll through this fairly quickly and efficiently, but if there are questions, if I say something you don't understand, please drop it in the chat so I know to come back to it. So why do we cast a strategic vision first? This is an interesting element of what I like to teach in my business planning that, again, I just feel like most people miss. If you can convince an agent to make an annual goal, it's typically based on what they've already done. Well, I'm a brand new agent, so any deals are better than none. Or, well, last year I closed 6 deals, so if I could do at least 7, that would be better. And in doing that, we really shortchange ourselves and we cheat ourselves out of a lot of success. So what I teach people to do is think about not where we've been, but where we want to be. And so I use a travel analogy, right? If I'm going to take my wife on a vacation to Hawaii, even though I am the Hawaiian shirt guru and everyone who knows me knows that this is my jam, if I know I'm taking my wife to Alaska, I'm probably not going to pack Hawaiian shirts, right? I'm going to plan for the destination, not the departure point. And so in our business, we want to do the same thing. We want to really give thought on where we want this to go. What does all of this work and effort and focus and discipline get us to? That made it worth us doing. And then that helps us make better goals. It helps us execute those goals because we know what the daily grind moves us to. And ultimately, it allows us to reverse engineer our success. Reverse engineering, if you've never heard it, is kind of a military term. We never want our enemies to get our weapons, our gear, our technology, because if they have the finished product, they can reverse engineer it by literally taking it apart, spring by spring, bolt by bolt, and now they know how to build it again. And that reverse engineering then allows them to replicate what we've already built, and we lose the advantage. So that's what we're doing with our business when we start at this higher level is we're creating the finished product in our mind, and then everything else is walking us back to those individual nuts and bolts of how we get there. Hopefully that makes perfect sense to everybody. So in your document, after that little cover page, the very first thing you're going to come across is a one-page piece of this exercise. How do we create the strategic vision for ourselves? Because it's different for every single person. This is not a cookie cutter thing. And what I want you to do, you don't have to do it now. You're welcome to jot a couple one-liners on here if you want. I want you to, this is a brain exercise, right? I really want you to do a little dream session on this. But I want you to just answer that question that's on the document, which is if absolutely everything goes my way over the next 5 years, right? We're thinking longer term. Where am I at now? What am I doing that's different than what I was doing 5 years ago? Who am I with? Did I change my circle? Did I get around different people that were going in the direction that I wanted to go? How has my life changed based on the series of successes that I was able to have? And then why does that matter to me? And what does it all really mean? That's an exercise for you to do. Again, very personal, very individual. You might sit down with a spouse or a loved one and talk about that together. If that's your dynamic, you may sit down and do it on your own. But I really want you to give some thought to that question of if absolutely everything goes my way over the next 5 years, personal, business, finances, everything goes my way. What does that even look like? Like what does that mean to me? What is the future that I hope I get myself to in that dynamic? And that's that first page of your document, which is your strategic vision. After we've filled out the strategic vision, now we can start to reverse engineer that bigger picture, and we can start setting some real annual goals that start moving us in that direction, right? We know that the individual grind is going to put us where we want to be because we've already decided where we're going. And then we're going to set what I call BHAGs. If no one's ever heard the term BHAG, that's big, hairy, audacious goals. It's just a fun way to say it is a goal worth putting in the work for, right? We are not throwing ourselves a softball that we can knock out of the park. This is not Little League. What I used to tell people, and I think it's still applicable in regards to an annual goal, is if you write out an annual goal and then you read it out loud to yourself, if you don't immediately question whether or not you're going to be able to achieve it, it's not a big enough goal. So many people will make a goal that they know I can crush this in my sleep. I can knock this out of the park. You're cheating yourself if you do that. Make a goal so audacious that one, it moves you firmly in the direction that you want to go based on the strategic vision. Two, even if something comes up in your life and you can't quite accomplish the goal. You only get 80% there. You still moved yourself way farther than you would have had you just knocked that softball out of the park and then kicked your feet up. So if you read your annual goal out loud to yourself and go, yeah, I got this, make a better goal. It's not big enough, right? You should really like question, is this something I'm going to be able to accomplish this year? That's a goal that you want to track. And then we'll talk a little bit about how we break down some accountability for this too, right? Accountability partners are great. Accountability groups are great. For anyone that's in my 100K in 100 days challenge that I run, we have a weekly accountability call just to help people stay on track with that and make that money. But there's a accountability piece that's very important as well. And so we'll talk a little bit about how we break that down in just a couple slides. And then from there, you're going to have some very specific, as we build all this out, some very specific, what am I doing day for day, hour by hour to accomplish those goals, to meet those monthly milestones that feed the bigger annual goals that feed into my strategic vision. So this all plays a part together. Now, these next few slides, I'm going to break down the next piece in your document, which is your yearly business goal tracker. I'm going to walk you through exactly how to do it. We'll move fairly fast because it's not super complex, but it's important to set up exactly how to break this down, the basic math, so that you understand how to do it for yourself. You're welcome to follow along and do it in your document if you want, and then you can always go back and refine it, but I just want to make sure everybody understands. So we're going to set our BHAG. We're going to set our big, hairy, audacious goal. And there's only 3 metrics here that you really need to have in order to put this document together. We need to know, how much money do we want to make in the next 12 months? What is our annual income goal for the next 12 months? That can be anything, right? That can be, I want to make $250,000 this year. That can be, I just got to get the bills paid so I can walk away from the part-time job. I need 35 grand a year. It's unique to you. Whatever that number is, there's no right or wrong. You need to know the average commission that you make in your market. This is not a NAR call. I'm not going to sit here and tell you can't talk about commissions. I'm not saying fixed commissions. I'm saying your commission. What are you earning on your deals? Now, if you're in a market that's 3%, great. If you do a lot of listings, it's probably 3%, great. If you're in a super high price market and it's 2%, fine, no big deal. Know what your average commission on your deals are. If you're a brand new agent and you're like, I don't really have a baseline of closed transactions to gauge this off of, you might just say, well, I feel like 2.5 is right or 3 is right. And as you start closing transactions, you can refine that. What I would typically tell you is, in most dynamics, again, unless you're in a really high price market or a unique market, if you're listing houses, it's probably 3%. If you're working a ton of buyer deals, you might hit a lot of 2.5% buyer transactions. That might balance you out to 2.75 if you're doing 50-50. Don't stress over the number right now. If you already have a pretty good gauge, by all means, pop it in there. If you don't, you might just use 2.5 to 3 to estimate. And then as you close deals, adjust it. And then the last market metric you need is, what is your average sales price on the transactions that you are closing? Where is that averaging out? Again, if you're brand new, and I'm like, I don't have a freaking clue. Like, I just got started, got my license a month ago, haven't closed any deals. I don't know. Simple exercise. Go to Google, type in median sales price in your city. Pull up Realtor, Zillow, and Redfin. They're all going to have a quick little market summary. They'll say median sales price is blah. They're all going to be slightly different, but they're all going to be pretty close. Average the 3 and round it down to the even number. Simple as that, right? Or maybe even tick it up to the even number. So if, for example, those averages come out to $347,000, that sounds a lot like 350. We'll use 350. And then as you start closing your own transactions, you can adjust that and say, well, actually, for whatever reason, my deals are 4 to 450. Great. You'll have to close less deals to make your goal. You can adjust those numbers. So that's the only 3 metrics that you need. You need to know how much money you want to make, what is your average commission, and what is your average sales price. From there, we're going to work through basic math and fill out this entire exercise on our own. So I'm going to give you a case study, a scenario based on someone that wants to make $240,000. It's a 3% commission in their market. Average sales price is $350,000. And again, this is in your Word document. You're welcome to follow along if you'd like. So if we know that our goal is $240,000, that's how much money I want to make. Then we need to pause for just a second and say, well, do I have any big recurring Expenses. I don't really mean like the $18 a month for your lockbox or, you know, $364 a quarter for your MLS fees. Those aren't huge numbers, right? Those can very easily be eaten away in the minutia. But if you were, for example, paying $3,000 a month for lead generation, or you've got a VA you're paying $900 a month to, right? That stuff adds up over the year. You might want to account for that. Ideally, the number is zero if you're not paying for lead generation, you don't have any big crazy, you know, admin costs, you're not paying a part-time agent to be your buyer's agent, things like that. If you are, by all means, account for them. If you're not, put zero. And then that means your revenue generated is the same, or again, just add the number. And then that's going to be your revenue. Now, revenue, real quick, in this scenario, we're talking about GCI, gross commission income. The reason we do it that way is really simple, actually. Like, I coach any agent, any brokerage, anywhere. I don't care. I just love to help people. It would be very difficult for me to refine this for, well, this is a 60-40 split model. This is a 70-30. This is 100. So if you have a crappy split, like if you're at a brokerage where just eat your lunch, maybe you account for some of that in your yearly expenses and you bump that GCI number up. That's fine. If you're at a pretty solid brokerage with a good split, or maybe you cap really fast and you're 100% for the rest of the year, those numbers won't matter as much. But if you have a ton of big, over the course of a year, you've got some things that are just really taking it out of your bank account, add those in so that your GCI gives you that margin to pay those things and still make the amount of money you want. Hopefully that makes perfect sense, everybody, as we flow through this. And then once we know what the GCI is, we're simply going to divide our GCI by our average commission. So that's $240,000 divided by 3%. That will tell you exactly how much closed volume you need to close at that commission percentage to get there. In this particular scenario, 240 divided by 3% is 8 million. Again, your numbers are your numbers. If these numbers feel incredibly high and you're like, $250,000, holy crap, don't stress over that. I know lots of people that make this, it's fine. If your number is only 40,000, don't stress over that. No big deal. It's your business roadmap. But that's how we work the math. The next line item on your business roadmap is volume divided by your average sales price. And that will tell you exactly how many transactions at your average sales price you need to close in order to generate the level of income that you want. So hopefully that's basic math. I just wanted to walk it through so everybody understood how to fill out the document. It would be silly of me to leave you hanging if you didn't know how. And then one more piece we're going to work on this. It's great that we have the annual goal. That's awesome. That's fantastic. The problem is most people that make an annual goal, they don't look at it for 11 months after they make it. All right. And if you make a great annual goal and you get really excited and you're like, this is it, like, this is what I'm going to do. And then you save that and you put it away somewhere and then you don't look at it until the weather starts getting chilly again. And you're like, wait a minute, didn't I make some goals 10 months ago, 11 months ago? If you look at it 11 months later and you're not on track, it's too late to fix, right? You've already moved so far down the year that you can't make some course adjustments. And so we're going to give you a monthly milestone that you can use to track your business every month with the document that we're putting together. That's what this workbook is for. So all you need to do is take your numbers and divide it by 12, right? It's not rocket surgery. $240,000 divided by 12 is 20 grand a month. 22.85 deals divided by 12 is 1.9 deals a month. Well, gee, that sounds a lot like 2 deals a month, right? So my monthly milestone might be 2 deals a month. Now, here's how we're going to use that monthly milestone. Very simple. You're going to open this document that I've given you, the whole document. You're going to open it every month at the beginning of the month. You're going to look over your strategic vision, make sure it's still in line with what you want. You're going to verify your numbers. Are these numbers still reflective of the business I'm doing? You're going to check your monthly milestones, and you're just going to look at your business. And all you have to do, there's no way to fudge this. You're going to look backwards. Did I close at least 1.9? We'll call it 2. Did I close at least 2 deals last month? Yes or no? It happened or it did not. There's no two ways around it, right? We're not cheating ourselves. It happened or it didn't. Then I want you to look forward. Am I under contract to close at least 2 deals in the coming month? You either are or you are not, right? If you're hitting your milestones, right? Let's say, for example, your monthly milestone was smaller than this and it was only half or 3/4 of a deal, when you broke it down monthly. Well, 3/4 of a transaction per month is a deal every 2 months. So you can still use this monthly milestone method. You can look back and say, did I close at least 1? Yes or no? Am I under contract to close at least one? Yes or no? And if either of those are yes, you're on track. But if you realize as you assess your business every month, I'm not on track here. I only closed one of two last month. I'm only under contract for one of two next month. I'm not hitting my monthly milestones. So I know I'm not going to make my annual goal. I'm not moving myself towards that strategic vision. Now we have some time to make adjustments. We go back to our calendar. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. And we say, okay, let me refine the activities I'm doing so that I can start producing the results I want. I still have time to fix this and get on track. And there's only really two things you're going to change. You are either going to do more of the business building priorities. We'll talk about that in a minute. You're going to budget more time to do them, or you're going to get smarter with what you're doing because you simply don't have any other time to do it, and you have to generate a higher ROI on the activity you're producing. That's it. You either do more or you do it smarter. For most agents, it's do more. There is an element here. It's almost like when you write your first budget, right? If we ever, you remember when you moved out of mom and dad's house? Some of us, that was a year or two ago. Some of us, that was decades ago, right? But you move out, you write your budget for the first time, and you're like, oh, eating out. I don't really spend any money eating out. That'll be zero. And then you track your receipts, and you look at it again 30 days later, and you're like, oh my gosh. And you got to refine your budget because you realize you're not much is $400 and you got to make it. So the first couple months you build this out and you do the work, you may make some refinements, and that's perfectly normal. Don't stress over that. If you don't hit your monthly milestones the first month or two and you go back to your calendar and say, okay, how do I do more activity? How do I get smarter with it? That's going to put you on track. And that's what matters. That's why we have the document to reflect and refine every single month. Now, the last thing on that document, and then we'll move on and we'll talk a little bit more calendar management, business priorities. You'll notice that it says, I want you to write a why letter to yourself, right? Reference that strategic vision. Why do these numbers matter to me? Why did I choose $240,000? Why? And then something very unique that I like agents to do, and I promise you, it'll be easy for you to not do it, but I promise you it will give this some teeth if you do it. I want you to think about a very tangible reward for someone else when you accomplish your goal. That can be a spouse, family member, a favorite charity, a cause you're passionate about. It needs to matter to you. It needs to be a tangible reward, and it needs to be for someone other than yourself. Here's why we do that real fast. I won't get all nerdy on you. There's some really deep psychology here. Human beings are hardwired. This is like caveman DNA survival stuff. We are hardwired to work harder to avoid a negative than we are to gain a positive. We're all built that way. So for example, let's say we'll use the same metric, right? I want to make $240,000 this year. If 8 months into the year, I'm reviewing my business and I realize I am on track to make 197,000. Does that hurt me? I'm going to make $197,000. It ain't 240, but it's pretty good. I can start cheating myself in no time. I don't need to work any harder. 240 was a great number, but 197, that's pretty darn good. I'll just let that go. But if we establish a reward for someone else, and then this is very important, we go tell them about it, right? We're going to, once we've identified the person or the charity or the cause and what the reward is, we are going to go make it known to that person that we did it. Now, it's not just me not making the amount of money I want. Now it's me cheating someone else out of the reward I promised them because I refuse to put in the work. And we don't want to be cheaters. We don't want to feel like we've slighted somebody. We don't want to feel like we cheated somebody out of something we promised. And so it might sound simple, but there's a level of personal accountability that gets built into that reward that we will give to someone else when we accomplish our goals. It really does give your goals some teeth. Don't overlook that. Please really give that some thought. Don't miss that. It'll change the way that you execute your business. Okay, so we've got our yearly goals planned out. We know what our milestones are. We understand how we're going to track them. We've identified why we're doing what we're doing and who we're going to give that reward to. How do we start bringing that together in a way that we can execute? So we're going to talk a little calendar management, a little business priorities. How do we get the nuts and bolts of this going? What I recommend agents do, I've been teaching this for a while, so I can confidently say I've taught this to thousands of agents. Almost every single time, this metric works really good. If your Sunday evening is utter chaos, don't do it on Sunday evening, right? It's your business to plan. Don't do it on Sunday if it doesn't work for you. The reason we say Sunday evening is because, generally speaking, a Sunday evening is the quietest point in a person's life. The clients aren't bugging you, the family's relaxing, there's no demands on your time. You can just breathe and clear your head. And so that's why we pick Sunday evening. So what I want you to do is I want you to open your calendar. I recommend an electronic calendar, Google, iPhone, something like that. And on Sunday evening, you can do this exercise right now. It's only Friday. It's right around the corner. You can grab your phone and do this exercise with us if you want. Go to Sunday evening, look at your calendar on Sunday and say, what time, ideally after dinner, but before bedtime, so the family's chilling, everybody's eating. There's nothing I have to do here. I can breathe. What time is that for you on Sunday evening? Where can I take 30 minutes and have a meeting with myself? And in that 30 minutes, I will build out my entire week on purpose in advance with some very clear priorities so that I know on Monday morning when I wake up, I am going to execute my plan and I will be successful, right? So think about what that looks like for you. Sunday evening, after dinner, before bedtime, you need 30 minutes at most. Set that calendar item to repeat every Sunday at the same time so you build the consistency. Consistency is a magic word in real estate. It'll change the dynamics of your business. Maybe set a 30-minute reminder, 15-minute reminder, just some little reminder so your phone pings and you're like, oh yeah, I need to go prep that quiet space. That quiet space can be anywhere it needs to be. That can be your master bedroom if the family's in the living room watching TV. If you've got 3 kids, 5 dogs, 2 cats, and an open floor plan, you might go sit in your car for half an hour. That's okay. Do this wherever you need to, but it's important that you do it. And then what you're going to do on Sunday evening when you're having that meeting is you are going to plan out your entire week on purpose in advance with very specific goals in mind. And we're going to prioritize our week. And so the goal here is on Monday morning, all you have to do is wake up, crack your knuckles, and go to work. We're going to have everything built out in advance. Now, I typically use 3 basic priorities. These work for 99% of people. This is a good construct. If you've got something different that works for you, that's fine. Do it your way. But Walt's way works pretty good for most people. Priority number 1 is the life stuff. I call these the can't miss items. These are things that you had to book in advance with another professional. They absolutely matter. You can't not do them. You just don't get to control the timing, right? I've got a doctor's appointment. My daughter has a dentist appointment. My dog has a vet appointment. My in-laws scheduled a family reunion and I got to go hang out with those schmucks for 3 hours on Saturday because I didn't get to plan it, right? Whatever it might be. I actually love my in-laws. They're not schmucks. They're great people. The things that matter to you, your family, your life dynamic, and you do not control the timing, that's priority number 1. Life is always more important than business. There is no such thing as work-life balance. It is a fallacy someone created to sell you stuff. The best we can do is properly prioritize our life and our work in any given day. And that's what this allows you to do. So you're going to go through your calendar, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Where are the can't miss items? And they're probably, honestly, most of them are already booked. Because a week in advance, you know when the doctor's appointment is at, you had to book it. You know when this stuff is happening. So it's very easy to plan. But what happens is you make sure they're all on the calendar. Priority 1 is done. The can't miss items are there. And you look at your calendar again and you go, oh, I have plenty of white space on my calendar. I absolutely have the time to build my business. I just have to choose to do it. Like I can plug this in. Then we move on to priority 2, which is what I call the must-do items. These are in my coaching world, we call these the core 4. These are the things that every successful business needs in order to be a successful business. And so that's active prospecting, follow-up, appointments, and immediate contracting client needs. So those could be things like a listing appointment, buyer consultation. What am I doing? Active prospecting is probably the number 1 priority, honestly. Active prospecting and follow-up are almost tied for first, right? You got to have someone to follow up with, but you got to follow up. So active prospecting first. And the question is not 2-hour block of active prospecting. The question is, what am I doing to actively prospect the way I want to? We're going to get to that in a minute. So it's not going to be a block of time that just says active prospecting. It might be Monday, 9 to 11, calling FSBOs. Tuesday, noon to 3, making YouTube content. Friday, 9 to 11, calling expired listings, right? Whatever that is for you. I'm just using those as a couple examples. You are going to give everything a specific executable assignment on the calendar by the day and the specific hour. So we have to have that active prospecting, or we will not have anyone to do business with. Follow-up is kind of a two-part piece, right? We have to follow up with the whole database, right? I can't build a database and then never touch base with them. They'll forget me. They genuinely will forget your name. So what am I doing on a regular basis to touch base with everybody? Am I sending a bi-weekly text campaign to say, happy Friday, how you doing? Hope you have a great weekend. Am I doing a weekly community newsletter that goes out to my whole database once a week with some friendly, engaging stuff? We got to have that bigger overarching follow-up. But then we also have to have the follow-up that's a little bit faster pace, right? I have to have time in my day to respond to emails, to answer DMs, to call somebody back, to engage with my client, right? I can't ignore people for days on end. That doesn't work. So I have to have the built-in follow-up throughout the day. I'll show you a copy of my calendar and kind of give you an example of what that looks like in a second. So we have to have that follow-up. We have to have dedicated time to set and hold appointments. If you have great active prospecting and you're following up consistently, you will be setting appointments. So make sure you got time for it. It's a critical part of getting to the closing table is having an appointment. Now, the appointment could be listing appointment, buyer consultation, meeting with a strategic partner to build some business. Maybe you're doing a community event. You have a volunteer opportunity that you wrangled. Anything that you're going to show houses to a buyer, anything that gets you out of your house, building business in a very specific way with somebody else, that's an appointment, right? So we have to have time for the appointments. When you hold them, it's totally up to you. You just got to make sure you got some time to hold them. And then lastly, the immediate contract needs. So if you have a buyer under contract, you got to go to the home inspection, put it on the calendar. If you have a listing under contract and you're going to go run up 30 minutes, you're going to run up and let the appraiser in, put it on your calendar, right? We have to have that immediate contract stuff again, so that we don't drop the ball on things. So that's priority number 2, the core 4: active prospecting, follow-up, appointments, and immediate contract and client needs. And then the last one is priority number 3. I call this the everything else. It's the want to do stuff. You don't have to do it. It's not important necessarily to the family dynamic. Like, you can't miss item would be, but you just choose to do some stuff for you and your family. If you build out priority number 1 and priority number 2 correctly, and you execute that plan, you will be successful. The end. You will be productive. So you might decide while you're building out your calendar and you're looking at this plan, you're like, I'm going to crush it. Maybe I want to take my wife to dinner on Friday night, just because I can, because I know I'm going to be successful all week. Maybe I want to take the kids out on the boat on Sunday. Maybe I want to do a picnic, whatever it is for you, right? If there's something that you want to do that week and you think about it, put it on your calendar in advance. That will allow you to focus on the active prospecting. I'm building my business, I'm doing my thing, without accidentally stepping on your personal time. And I'll give you a quick example of what this might look like. Let's just use the dinner with the wife on Friday as an example. I'm Sunday evening, I'm building out my calendar. I've got everything laid out. I'm going to crush it. And I go, you know what? My wife's had a rough year. She had 4 surgeries in 2023, had a 5th one in 2024. I just want to take her out to dinner on Friday night. So I will put on my calendar on Sunday evening, dinner 5 to 7, dinner 6 to 8, whatever it might be. It's not that I'm going to forget by Friday I love my wife, right? It's that on Tuesday, when I'm actively prospecting for business, or you start building your business, sometimes you just get calls from people because they saw you on Google. They looked you up. That happens. About 20% of my business now is just people calling me at random from my Google page. So I'm on the phone with a client. It's Tuesday. I'm not thinking about Friday. It's business building mode. We're game on. Let's book an appointment. And they say, hey, Walt, we're coming into town from Jersey. We're going to be in Florida all weekend. We got 6 houses we want to look at. We're going to buy a second home. Great. Tell me more. Love to help. Yeah, we're coming into town on Friday night. Could we start looking at houses on Friday night? Hold on one second and just let me check my calendar for you right now. Sounds like great service, right? I'm checking my calendar right now. All I'm doing is looking at my calendar that I've already built. I thumb over to Friday and I say dinner 5 to 7. And now all I have to do is say, hey, you know what? I'm actually already booked on Friday evening, but we could start first thing Saturday morning if that works for you. Yeah, 9 a.m. is perfect. Send me the list of properties. I'm going to line it all up. I can't wait to meet you. Talk to you soon. That sounds really simple, right? That was 10 seconds, but a lot of things take place in that 10-second interaction. One, I don't overbook myself. Two, I don't stress over the fact that I had to overbook myself. Three, I don't waste any time rescheduling things because I overbooked myself. And four, maybe the most important, I don't have to call that brand new client back and ruin my great first impression by explaining that, hey, yeah, we talked yesterday. I said Friday evening. I actually realized I'm actually not available Friday evening. Can we reschedule? That's a horrible first impression to make for the client you've never even met, right? So something as simple as putting on your calendar the things that you want to do will help you keep your personal life and your business life from stepping on each other. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't reprioritize if you choose to. You can absolutely take a priority number 2 item and put it in place of your priority number 3 item. That's your prerogative. It's your business to run. That's why we have priorities. I'm never going to cancel dinner with my wife for a business thing. But let's just say I was going to go to the movies on Friday because my wife is out with some girlfriends that weekend and I'm just don't want to sit at home bored. This exact same conversation takes place. Can we start on Friday night? And I've said, let me check my calendar for you right now. And I see dinner, or I'm not dinner. I see movie Friday night. You better believe I'm going to watch the movie next week. I'm going to go close some deals, right? It's okay to make a higher priority in place of that, but at least it's your choice. You have it on your calendar. It will make you more efficient as you're having conversations with prospects. Hopefully that makes good sense to everybody. So that's how we lay that out. What it kind of starts to look like. That is an actual screenshot of my calendar a couple years ago. You'll notice it says EXP lead or mastermind. That was back when I was with EXP. I'm not there anymore, but it doesn't really matter. It's the format is what matters. I'm going to talk briefly about this. So you'll notice a couple things. One, there's not a single time slot with 2 line items on it. That is by design. You cannot multitask better than you can focus on one primary task at a time. That has been studied over and over and over for decades now. Multitasking is a fallacy. Kick that crap out of your head. That's why we have priorities. One priority at a time. Nothing gets duplicated. The other thing you'll notice is there's nothing on the calendar in a smaller than 30-minute increment. That is also neuroscience. That's not Walt Key's just flippant way of doing it. It takes the human brain several minutes to fully transition from one primary task to another for maximum efficiency. So we don't want to try to do a bunch of little 10, 15, 20-minute things all day long. You will fry your circuitry. You will be frazzled, anxious, exhausted, and you will not want to do it again tomorrow. And you're gonna shoot yourself in the foot as you're trying to execute your business if you are trying to do a bunch of little things all at once and your brain never gets a chance to breathe. So if you've got something you think will take 15 or 20 minutes, just book it for 30. If you got a conversation you got to have, it'll take 40, 45 minutes, book it for an hour. If you wind up building in a little bit of white space to take a breath, go to the bathroom, grab a sip of whatever you're drinking, clear your head, focus in on the next thing, great. There's nothing wrong with that. You might even realize I've got 20 minutes. Let me just do a little follow-up. Even though it's not a follow-up time slot, let me do a little follow-up before I do the next thing. Perfectly fine. I'd rather you build in more white space and be very efficient than to scramble your circuitry and not execute your plan. Okay. The other thing you'll see is when I mentioned earlier the follow-up situation, right? You'll notice I have a morning follow-up, an afternoon follow-up, and an evening follow-up. Those typically 30 to 60 minutes is all you really need. Depends on how busy you are, how much business you've got. Those are the daily grind. My customer reached out to me, an agent reached out to me. That's the I'm doing business right now follow-up. That's not the bigger overarching, hey, on Thursday weekly newsletter or set it and forget it in the CRM bi-weekly text campaign. That's the individual follow-up all day. It is okay. It is perfectly fine to not respond to your clients every single second they text you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That is not how professionals manage their day. It is okay to get back to your client every 2 to 3 hours. It is not okay to ignore your client for 2 to 3 days. That is horrible customer service. You will fail. And so by building in a morning follow-up, an afternoon follow-up, and an evening follow-up, dedicated time block, all I'm doing is guaranteeing that no matter how busy I get, no matter how productive I am, no matter how successful my day is, I will always have time to pause and get back to my customers, my clients, my partners within a 2 to 3 hour window. So I'm always got great communication, right? If you don't build that in and you have a day where you're crushing it for 6 or 7 hours, like you get after it, but now it's you're tired and you go to bed and you forget and you wake up the next morning and you're like, holy crap, I didn't respond to that person for 17 hours. That's not good. Right. So just build those little pockets in, right? It's not anything rocket surgery, but again, a lot of people just they've never done this, so they don't understand. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Again, that is an actual screenshot of one of my Wednesdays a couple years ago. You do not have to wake up at 5 a.m. and work out. If you want to, great, crush it. If you don't. You probably don't have to have a weekly Diamond Miners meeting. That's my team meeting. You don't have to do that. You don't have to be in mastermind meetings. You don't have to be in leadership meetings. So your day will look different. That's okay. But you want to build it out in advance on purpose with those very specific key priorities so that when you go execute, it's autopilot. I know what I'm doing. I know how I'm doing it. I'm going to go be the #1 employee of my business today. Okay, so the question becomes, what are you putting on your calendar, right? What does that look like for you? It's yours to do. Again, just a rehash, lead generation, right? Active prospecting has to be on your calendar every single week, probably multiple times a week. When I talk about lead generation, just real fast, when I talk lead generation, a lot of people get confused by that. Like, I don't know, it's so complicated, active prospecting, blah, blah, blah. Here's a very easy way to think about lead generation. Who do I want to work with? How do I find them? And what value am I bringing? With that construct, your lead generation starts to get a little bit more organic. You don't have to overthink it. Who do I want to talk to? I like working with for sale by owners. Right now, at this very moment in time, 50% of my active listings or pending deals are FSBOs. It's usually 20 to 40% up in my business. I like working with FSBOs. So who do I want to work with? I want to work with FSBOs. How do I find them? Well, I'll go to Marketplace. I'll go to Zillow's for sale by owner section. I might go to FSBO.com, for sale by owner.com, and I'll have a conversation with them. What value can I bring? Well, it sure as hell isn't, hey, why don't you let me list your house? They don't want to list their house, right? I teach an entire course on FSBOs. There's a lot of value we can add there. It's important to understand what that value is that you're trying to bring to the table to begin with. So who do you want to talk to? Who do you want to do business with? How do you find them? Are they on social media? Are they coming from a YouTube channel? Is it a phone call? Is it an in-person meeting? And then what value am I bringing to the conversation in order to build the relationship? Right? And then the follow-up continues to nurture the relationship and remind them of the value that you brought. Right? And appointments will flow from that. If we're doing active prospecting and following up consistently, we will start setting appointments. Immediate contract needs are a no-brainer. That's how we start building out the calendar. Now, the question becomes, well, that sounds great, but I'm brand new and I don't really even know how to figure out active prospecting. So we're going to talk about a little bit about that. In your document, in your workbook, the last couple pages, we're going to talk generally about prospecting for a personality. Again, this is a heavy topic. I literally am writing an entire book on this. So we're going to hit the cliff notes here. There's 2 different pages in your document. One of them is called the Personality Strengths Assessment. It's a series of words going 2 columns. And then on the bottom, it says, give me 5 words, basically. I want you to not overthink that. Don't try to analyze what does this all mean in the grand context of everything. But I want you to very quickly just snap judgment. As you look at those words on either side, it's an either or, right? Are you outgoing or are you reserved? Are you analytical or are you spontaneous, right? Are you friendly or are you more professional? Are you entertaining or are you more educational? Now, some of those words you're going to go, well, I feel like I can be both. Don't think about what you can be. Don't think about what you want to be. Don't think about how you want your clients to perceive you. That's not what we're doing here. This is you at your core, your default setting. Where do you fall in? And all I want you to do is just, if you got the Word document open right now, just make those words bold, that best associate with who you are down the columns. And then at the bottom, it's going to say, in your own words, what are the first 5 words someone would read if they were reading your ingredient label? You're going to think of your own. Don't use the same words. Think of your own 5 words. If you've got it printed out, you can just circle it and then handwrite. That's fine too. But it's important to do this exercise. I'm not trying to psychoanalyze you. I'm not trying to, this is not as deep as a Myers-Briggs or a Strength Finders, or I've done about 6 different personality assessments over the years. This is just to get you thinking about who you are, how you operate, what's my communication style, how do I interact with people, at my core, who am I, right? Because that leads us into the next page of the document, which is lead generation categories. You'll notice there's a lot of them. There are dozens of great ways to build a real estate business. They don't all make sense for you because we're all unique people, right? What Walt Key did to be incredibly successful, statistically speaking, does not work for a 24-year-old millennial. How do I know that? Well, I'm a nerd. That's how I know that. There's a great study done in Australia where they surveyed millennials and they determined, get this, it's crazy, mind-boggling. 90% of millennials in the survey said that they feared, that's the word they used to describe it, they feared being on the phone with a stranger. 90% of them. So Walt Key loves to be on the phone with strangers. Oh, I'm bored on a Saturday. I'm calling Fizbos. Oh, you know what? I want more business. Let me call up an accountant. Let me call up a CPA. Let me call up an estate. I'm just going to build partnerships. It's just a conversation, just a phone, been around for hundreds of years. But if I project how I do business onto, let's say I have an agent that joins my team. I have agents always joining us and they're fresh out of college, 24, 25 years old. They're a millennial and they're like, I don't want to use my degree. I realized as I was doing this, I want to run my own business. I want to get into real estate. I said, great, join us. We got resources. We got tools. I'll help you, blah, 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 right? And they say, okay, here I am. What do I do? And I was like, okay, it's super easy. Here's what we're going to do. You're going to get on the phone with these people on Monday, and you're going to get on the phone with these people on Wednesday. You're going to get on the phone with these people on Friday. Their eyes are going to get as big as they can possibly get, and they're going to go, oh, crap, I can't do this. I picked the wrong career. And they don't even realize that that's me setting them up for failure. It's not their fault. I didn't understand who they were and how they wanted to operate. That's what that strengths assessment is for. It's for you to just get the wheels turning about who you are and what makes you tick. And then as you move into the lead generation categories on the next page, you'll see there's a bunch of them. Do not even remotely try to do all of those. We don't need to. Here's how we're going to break this down. I want you to think about this from the perspective of your personality, who you are at your core. And I want you to think about if there was only one way, one strategy for the rest of your real estate career, you could do nothing else. You could not add to it. You could not deviate from it. You got one shot. Don't worry about whether you know how. We can always teach you how to do something. I can give you tools or resources or the whole shebang. If you knew how to do it and you knew it would work, what would you enjoy doing the most? One thing. And you mark that one thing, highlight it, make it bold, circle it if you've already printed it out. What's your one thing? Anywhere on the document. I don't mean a whole category. I mean any one specific item on that document. What's your one strategy that you would enjoy executing if you knew how? And again, I don't want you to think about, well, I don't know how, or I've never heard of this, or I don't know how that goes together. What I'll offer all of you is when you're done with this exercise and you build this out, you are welcome to reach back out to me. You can email me, Facebook message me, whatever, and say, Walt, these are the strategies I'm choosing. I will make sure you know how. I'll send you a script, a template, a resource. I'll introduce you to my next coaching call about that strategy. Whatever it is, I'll make sure you know how. So don't stress over that. I want you to know that you would enjoy it and you would have no problem putting it on your calendar, waking up the next day and doing the work. That's your one thing. Then I want you to imagine that that one thing does not exist. It's not even an option. What's your next best one thing? And you're going to do that until you have 4 things highlighted or circled, right? You're going to start from the most important to the next until you get to 4. And then I want you to stop there. Once you've got 4 key active prospecting strategies identified that you would enjoy doing, you would engage with it, you would put it on your calendar, you do the work, stop. And the reason we stop at 4 is very simple. Again, I'm a nerd. I love the statistics. Almost every agent I've ever worked with, the sweet spot on active prospecting strategies is between 2 and 4. If it's less than 2, you basically got a one-legged table. That's not smart. Little bump of the elbow, there's spaghetti sauce all over the floor, right? A one leg of business, the moment the market shifts, that buyer dynamic changes, that seller dynamic changes, something shifts in your business, and that business leg goes away, you have no business. And as the CEO of your company, that is not a wise position to put your business in. So we're not going to do that. So we're always going to have at least 2 that we're doing all the time. Now, why do we stop at 4? Well, Using that same table analogy, if you were trying to sit down at a table with you and your friends and your family, and you're going to go sit at a restaurant at a table, and the table had 7, 9, 10, 11 legs under it, well, hell, the legs are just in the way. Like, you can't sit at a table with 11 legs with 10 people. It's not even comfortable. And your business is very similar. If you're trying to do too many things at once, you are not doing anything well, and you're definitely not doing anything consistently. And again, consistency is a magic word in real estate. Consistency is where the magic happens. So somewhere between 2 and 4 is for 95% of the agents, that's the sweet spot. At least 2. So if something shifts, you can lean into the one you're already doing while you bring in another, but no more than 4, because you're going to run out of bandwidth, you're going to run out of time and energy, and you're not going to be able to focus and do it right and do it consistently. So whatever those 4 are for you, that's perfectly fine. Don't stress over that. But when we're back on our calendar management and we're building out our active prospecting for the week, those are the 2 to 4 things that you're going to say, when am I doing that? What day of the week am I doing that strategy? What hour of the day am I going to execute it? And we're going to build that out on purpose in advance. And then we're going to execute those strategies in the allotted time that we chose for ourselves so that we can be successful. All right, couple more things, and I'm going to stop the screen share and just open this up for some questions. Couple more things really fast. We're in that psychological piece still. I put this slide on here because it's very, very important for people to understand. I hate the word motivation. And if you use the word motivation, you're going to cheat yourself all day long. Motivation is this fickle and fleeting emotional response to an outside stimulus. So as fast as I become motivated, I can become unmotivated. And there will be times where you are not motivated to run your business. Too bad, do it anyway. In my old school days, my cool guy days in the Navy, we used to say, you don't have to like it, you just have to do it. Really, truly, that matters here, right? You have to run your business even on the days where you don't want to. And so you have to build the discipline to know, even on the days where I don't really feel like it, I'm going to put in the work anyway, because discipline is the consistent, repeated execution that leads to a result you choose, right? We have our grand strategic vision, we have our annual goals, we have our monthly milestones. That disciplined, consistent action is what is accomplishing it for us, not the fact that we're rah, rah, rah today because we feel like it. I'll give you a quick example and then we'll move on my shelf right over here. You can't see it on my shelf. I said I was a former marathon runner. I have a plaque on my shelf that says first place in my age group at the 2014 Lincoln Memorial Marathon. Lincoln is in Nebraska. At the time that I was training for that marathon, I was active duty Navy, which meant I had to be workout done, showered, in uniform, butt in seat at 7:30 in the morning. When you train for a marathon, you typically train through the winter for a spring marathon. That's typically how it works. So 12 to 16 weeks of training that culminates in an early spring run. So just to picture this for a moment. I have to be at work for the Navy at 7:30 in the morning, but I am training to run a sub 3-hour marathon. That means I'm waking up at 3:45 a.m. in the winter of Nebraska, -10 degrees, ice on the ground, and I'm rolling out of my bed to put on running shoes to go run 20 miles. Motivation does not exist. It was murdered the night before. It's not there, right? Discipline is the only thing that will roll you out of bed to do the work, because I knew the habit of consistently executing the plan, in this case, the marathon training plan that I had laid out in advance, was going to produce the result I wanted. I wanted to run a sub 3-hour marathon. I ran that marathon in 2 hours and 46 minutes, became #1 in my age group. It was great. I loved it. That's a constant reminder of how life works. It's not just running. It's not just any other activity you want to do. This is business, personal, health, fitness, finance. You have to build the discipline. Now, it actually only takes, this is interesting. Again, I'm a nerd. This is studies. This is science. It only actually takes about 3 weeks of doing something you've never done before consistently. Right? You're not one here and one here. If you do it consistently, it takes about 3 weeks to form a new habit. Now, I'll be the first to tell you, in the first 3 weeks of building the habit, there are days where it'll suck. You won't want to do it, but you got to. After about 3 months of executing that habit consistently, it becomes a new lifestyle where you literally say something like, this is just what I do. I don't even remember when I'm a runner now. I'm a runner. So the habit of things like prospecting and follow up and executing your business, those first couple weeks that you execute your plan may feel like a grind. That's normal. Don't let that defeat you. After about 3 weeks, it's going to start getting a whole lot easier because you're building the lifestyle. And before you know it, yeah, of course I prospect at 9 a.m. I got bills to pay. Like, let's go. It's going to be really, really easy at that point, but you got to put in the work to get it there. Hope that makes sense to everybody. Throw the word motivation out of your vocabulary. You do not have to feel like it in order to do what you know you need to do. Okay. Let's talk tech for just a minute. I don't want to bore people with this, but I just want to hit it really quick. And I noticed I have a typo on my bullet, so ignore that. There are lots of great ways to do business, but you should absolutely be thinking about, how do I do them more efficiently? How do I save my time? How do I get my time back to put it into activities that produce better ROI, right? Honestly, about 20% of the stuff you do will generate about 80% of the results you want. So if you're wasting a bunch of time on the 80%, let's figure out how we stop doing that. So technology can help with that. Things like route planning, right? We used to print out individual sheets from MapQuest, right? I'm going to go here to here, and then here to here, and then here to here, and then here to here. And you just punch in an address and you spend 9 hours in the car and 3 hours building the damn route, right? Now we can go to routexl.com and go, I want to start here. I'm going here and here and here and here and here, and I want to end here. Build my route. And not only will it build you the whole route, but it will build it in the most fuel, which is often usually the most time efficient as well, the most fuel and time efficient route to hit those showings to save you time. So if you're showing 6 to 8 houses one weekend for a client that's coming into town and they got to get it all done at once, you could save yourself 90 minutes in that day just by planning out the route properly. And that'll take you 15 seconds to do on Route XL. You can do the same thing in Google, Google Maps these days, multiple destinations. So leverage that technology, get your time back. Virtual meetings, right? We're on one right now. A lot of people think of Zoom calls as this big corporate, maybe I'm doing a coaching call or some sort of training, and there's a team meeting. But here's the thing, think about this. If you're going to do a buyer consultation, and let's say you were going to meet the buyer at their favorite coffee shop, just so it's a casual setting, right? You're going to drive 35 minutes to the coffee shop, have an hour-long conversation with the client about what they want and how the buying process works, and I'll set you up on an MLS search filter, and this is what the pre-approval process looks like. You're going to educate them. Then you're going to drive 35 minutes home, and then you're actually going to get online and build the MLS search, introduce them to your lender, do all the things that you're going to do. You wasted 70 minutes of your day, plus your gas money, having a conversation that you could have had face-to-face on a Zoom call. What could you do with an extra 70 minutes? Let's say you had 3 buyer consultations a week. What could you do with an extra 4 hours in your week to build your business, to grow, to have fun and do whatever you wanted to do, right? Leverage that technology to your advantage. You can do your buyer consultations on a Zoom call. Contact management. If you don't have some great automated contact management, I highly recommend you start doing it. You leverage your CRM if you have one. I don't care who you're with, what brokerage you're with, leverage your CRM. Set up some automations for yourself. Once you've got it built the first time, it's easy. For example, I mentioned earlier a biweekly text campaign. What if you literally went into your CRM and took 30 minutes to build out this simple sequence? Every other Friday, text my entire database. Happy Friday. I hope you have an amazing weekend. What do you have planned? Walt. I'm never going to have to touch that again. Every time I put a new client in my database, I'm simply going to click a button to say, add them to the text campaign. And I will touch base with them every other week forever to stay top of mind. And here's the fun part. Those that want to engage, those that need my help, those that have a question, they can respond to the text because I reminded them, oh yeah, I meant them to reach out to Walt. Simple stuff like contact management, texting, weekly newsletter, same thing, right? You could send a weekly newsletter to your entire database. It'll take you 45 minutes roughly to build out the newsletter. But here's the fun part. Whether you've got 50 people in your database or 5,000 people in your database, it's only taking you 45 minutes to reach them all with a valuable, community-based, fun, engaging newsletter. Just throwing you some options out. Now, you don't have to do that, but I'm giving you some options. Calendar management. If you're still one of the folks that use like an old school day planner, like I have some, I use them too, like while I'm out and about to jot some notes. But if you're using a day planner as your calendar, I highly recommend you stop doing that. Go electronic for a few reasons. One, it's quick and easy. Two, it allows you to capture an email address so that you can add your client to the calendar with you, right? And maybe the most important, we've all been there, right? We've all had an appointment that we set and we were no-showed, right? Somebody ghosted you. Well, if I set an appointment and I put them on the calendar invite and I set a 1 hour reminder and a 30-minute reminder and a 10-minute reminder, the odds are ever in my favor that if they can't make it, they will let me know because they're getting the calendar reminders and they're like, oh yeah, I need to tell him I can't make it, rather than them just getting busy with life and forgetting about the meeting. Right? So that calendar management really can help you be more efficient. It won't waste your time. How great would it be if you knew 45 minutes before you were going to get no-showed that it was a no-show and you just didn't go? Right? Super helpful. Save your time. Task management, same thing, right? If there are things that you hate doing, active prospecting you got to do, but we're not going to do it in ways we hate. We're going to do it in ways we love. That's why I'm helping you build out those strategies. But if you're not a paperwork fan, if you don't like the behind the scenes and the scheduling and the coordinating, you just like, you're a relationship person. I just want to talk to people. Someone else can do all the paperwork. Use a transaction coordinator. Leverage a VA if it makes sense for your business. Hire a part-time admin assistant if you're scaling and growing, right? There's so many ways we can leverage people and processes for the task management to save you your time. And you get to focus the time on the things that you love to do and that produce the most ROI on your time, as opposed to grinding out the little, I can't stand this freaking paperwork drill, but I got to do it because there's nobody else, right? Leverage technology, leverage resources to do that stuff for you. There's almost an app for everything these days. Don't be shy about that stuff. All right, last but not least, I told you I would tell you the lie that you've been told your whole life. Show of hands, how many people have heard knowledge is power? Yeah, knowledge is power. Woo, hashtag knowledge is power. The more you know. Ah, bull crap. Knowledge is not power, ladies and gentlemen. Knowledge is nothing more than potential. If you never execute on the knowledge you gain, it's absolutely powerless. So I want you to change the way you think about that, right? You got some great knowledge today. I'm going to give you some more tools and resources to help, but I can't run your business for you. If you were to email me and say, Walt, here's my plan. Here's what I want to make. Here's how much money. Here's the strategies I choose. Here's what I want to do to be successful. I can't do it for you. You have to execute your business. So remember, consistent, disciplined action. This came to me one day. I didn't actually plan this, but it came to me one day. Think about the acronym consistent, disciplined action, CDA. How many people know what CDA stands for in the real estate business? Commission Disbursement Authorization. Give me my money. Well, if you want a CDA, you've got to put in some CDA. You've got to get really consistent doing the things that you choose to do to run your business, because there's no one out there that's going to do it for you. You are the CEO of your company. You're the only one that can execute your business. So do that. Okay.